Well, Scott Aitchison is the Conservative MP for the Ontario riding of Parry-Sound-Muskoka, a riding he's held since 2019. He won again this Monday evening, winning by 52% of the vote. Scott, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Listen, obviously your party did not win, but right now there are questions around leadership. And I think part of that has to do with poll numbers, because your party didn't win, but it did do well through most of this campaign when it came to the polls. But Pierre Poilievre did not. In fact, he underperformed in popular support when compared to the Conservative Party itself. Is he the problem here for the party?
No, of course he's not the problem. In fact, Pierre Poilievre has helped us achieve a much larger caucus than we've had. And in the last couple of elections, we've grown another 24 members of our caucus, and frankly, we've grown those caucus members. We've won seats which I think have traditionally been seen as NDP seats, and so Pierre's done an amazing job of connecting with working folks, union members. I think he's done an incredible job of animating and engaging a younger generation of Canadians who've come out to vote. I think he's done an amazing job of doing those things, and he's grown our broader voter coalition. And I think that in many ways that work is just beginning.
Except that, people have known Pierre Poilievre since he was first elected. So he's been around for many, many years, even before he was leader. Has that brand essentially took the party as far as it can go, though? Because even himself, Pierre Poilievre, did not win his own seat.
Well, I think it's safe to say that Pierre has won a seat that has traditionally been seen as a Liberal seat. Those suburban Ottawa ridings, he first won it when he was 25 years old, and he demonstrated to the country and to our party that if you work hard, if you knock on every door, and if you commit to the riding, you can win, and people will believe in Conservatives. Now, he's done that for the rest of the country, and I think that I think he's not just engaged a new voter coalition, but he's engaged an awful lot of candidates who saw what he did and want to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, although, and forgive me for saying this, we've heard a couple of high-profile Conservatives today alone, Pierre Poilievre of Nova Scotia being one of them, and he basically says that under the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre's leadership is not a big enough tent for all Conservatives. The fact that he's not made every Conservative feel welcome. What's your response to that?
Well, it's safe to say that a Conservative in Nova Scotia is maybe a little different than a Conservative in Alberta versus a Conservative in Ontario. I think our tent is a broad coalition, and I think that I've always said that this is a relationship business, this business of public life. There's probably some work to do amongst us all to connect and build those relationships, and I'm happy to be a part of that process, and I know that my colleagues are too.
Do you think you can be a bridge between Mr. Poilievre and Premier Ford, though, for example? Because, Premier Ford also came out today saying that Pierre Poilievre prevented federal Conservatives from helping PCs out in the last provincial election.
I would never presume to take on such a role, but I know that Pierre is a gifted and capable individual, and I think he can bring all Conservatives together on a national level. There's, as I said, there's obviously a bit of work to do amongst our coalition across the country. I know Pierre can do that work, and he will do that work.
What's happening here, though? Here you have two very popular Conservatives in Premier Ford and Premier Houston. Why has there been such a problem to build a bridge between them and Pierre Poilievre?
I don't know. I don't know if there's been a problem to build that bridge. I know that Pierre has been singularly focused on the national scene and very focused. I've never seen anyone work harder. I've never seen anyone more focused and so laser, focused on the mission before him and making sure that we make life more affordable for all Canadians. And so, I think that, he's focused on the message. He's focused on his national role. We will spend some time working with our provincial friends, and if there's some risks to heal, we will do what we got to do that.
Mm-hmm. And is that going to be in front of people to see, or you think that's a backdoor conversation to be had amongst Conservatives?
Well, I would imagine there'd be a lot of conversations amongst friends and colleagues that aren't in front of microphones, and that's probably the best place for those conversations to happen.
Now, you know, there's also some practical questions right now. As I said, Pierre Poilievre did not win his own seat. Do you know of any elected Conservative who might give up their seat so that Mr. Poilievre might be able to rather run in a by-election?
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't think there's a mad rush to, find such a thing. I think that Pierre has earned the right to take a moment and reflect on sort of what he needs to do next. I think we need to meet as a caucus, and we will, I'm sure, do that shortly. But any speculation about that at this point, I think, is a little premature and not necessary. Pierre has a minute to think about what his next step is.
Now, of course, you are returning to the House of Commons as an MP. I'm wondering what your hopes are for this Commons. It's a minority Liberal government up against some very big threats with Donald Trump, an existential threat against the Canadian economy. What do you hope you see amongst MPs of Conservative, Liberal, otherwise? What type of environment do you hope comes out in this next Parliament?
Well, I would echo the words of Pierre, in fact, on election night when he talked about, working together as a parliament, and as a country when it comes to addressing the threats from our American friends. I think that, we need to be united when it comes to dealing with tariff threats and this business of our, threatening our sovereignty. And I think that our parliament will do that. We'll do that very business. I think as well that, there will be areas where we agree, areas where we disagree, and effective official opposition opposes when necessary, proposes ideas where necessary, and I think that it can be a functioning parliament. Now, of course, it's a Liberal government, so I'm disappointed in that. So I'd like to see a Conservative government as soon as possible, but we have immediate business to get to, and we will get to it.
Okay, Scott Aitchison, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Michael.